Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation sales and marketing success stories. I'm Jennifer Carpus Romaine, Executive Director at TMSA, which is a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professional in transportation and logistics. Today's guest on the show is Kameel Gaines, who is founder and CEO at Rig on Wheels. She is also one of our TMSA partner members and volunteers on our DEI task force. Welcome to the show, Kameel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I was thinking before we launched the official podcast, I had you on a few months ago and just like our old LinkedIn live style when we were talking about some DEI things. So it's fun to have you back officially as a guest on the podcast. And it was great to see you not too long ago at TMSA Elevate. And you were actually on a panel chatting about people, profit, and purpose, and how people then can unify their workforce for business impact. So I'm curious, what were some of your biggest takeaways that people left that session with?
Well, first of all, it was really exciting to be there, but that was a good panel because when you hear people, profit, and purpose, when we hear profit, the first thing we think is finances, right? And it is finances, but the way we can explain it is a little bit different. So I think that when people left, they were able to understand each one of us differently and how we explained things. Like, for an example, Charlie and I both have third party recruitment agency. Charlie recruits everything in logistics and trucking other than drivers, and Rig on Wheels recruits only drivers, Class A drivers. So to hear her perspective on everything starts with people, and for me, I work backwards. It starts with profit because that lets you know how well you are doing with your people and your purpose. And then Caitlin being the internal client that we would be serving, both Charlie and I, and hers was purpose. So just to see that unity and how it all meshed together, I think that is what everybody was left with. So it was pretty awesome. And it was pretty awesome just to see how all of us thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
How each the triple P's kind of played off each other.
Sure. And it's really important when you're thinking about to get different perspectives and everyone's coming in to the conversation from different points. And I like that you said, we talk about profit and that's always the financial pieces, but people are a part of that. And how do we
Yeah.
incorporate that? And how do we make our people more successful? And how do we engage our employees? And you hear all these stats about how like it's easier to retain a customer than to get a new one. But how do we apply that to our people too? Like it's easier to like hire within and train the people that you have on your team and have that buy-in already and then develop those skills instead of constantly going to the market for new people. But so I loved just the different perspectives on how to do that, and then kind of the status of where things are in the market right now. It was really cool.
Absolutely. So it was amazing. Just our takeaways and what we were each left with, as well as the audience. So it was, I think, especially when Caitlin was talking, Charlie and I, our mouth was just kind of dropped open because of her position. It's definitely different in the company that our clients that we normally serve. She is a different position, so to her perspective is different.
Mhm.
So it was.
And I realize, in case people weren't at Elevate, Kameel is on a panel with Charlie Safro of CS Recruiting and Caitlin Quinn of NFI Industries. So when we're referencing Charlie and Caitlin, that's who they are. Check them
Oh
out.
my God, who wasn't there? How could you not be there? It's I, I would just assume that if they are in logistics, they were there.
Well, I love that sentiment. There were a lot of people in the room, and they're in New Orleans celebrating all things TMSA, TMSA's 100-year anniversary. But we're both proud that even though we were celebrating those things and we talked about TMSA and the impact that we've been able to have over the past 100 years, we also then celebrated all the things that are going on in the industry. And we had our awards night that talked about, really great sales and marketing campaigns. Um, so I'm curious, like outside of your panel, then what were some of the other takeaways, some things that you took back to the office with you after Elevate?
Okay, so Kara, I don't know the name of her company, but Kara, the
Lead coverage.
okay,
Bear Brown.
genius. Okay, we need to just call her the marketing genius. That's her new name, marketing genius Kara. So the way she looks at marketing for me is totally different. I am sales. I am born into sales. I've only done sales. I appreciate sales. I think sales is the most important position that God has ever made. The end. So when she spoke about marketing and the innovation and bringing the technology and the human aspect into it, and then brought in sales. You don't really hear marketing folk talk about that. So a lot of times that's where the disconnect between sales and marketing happens because marketing folk don't understand sales and sales folk feel that marketing is support, right? Versus it needs to be a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So the way Kira was speaking of it was like a marriage of 50 years that evolved. Like that when I was sitting when I was sitting there, that's how it was. It was playing out in my head like some romantic Lifetime Hallmark movie, right? Not Lifetime, because at the end of Lifetime, people kill their
Yeah,
husband.
they have bad endings in
Yeah.
Lifetime.
So
Hallmark are the happy endings. Yeah.
right, so Hallmark. It was more like a Hallmark movie. Nobody died in Kira's conference, her workshop. Nobody died, but I really appreciated it because she didn't just talk about the 7 points of touching a lead. It was 7 points of touching a lead 35 times in those touch points.
Mm.
That type of thing. And people was like, oh my goodness. And then when you had the shippers panel and they would say, well, you never know when you get us on a good day or this day. And that's how sales is. But that's when the marketing part comes in. It really is a mathematical formula. But if you utilize Kara's innovation and the technology, then you will know when your your client or your prospective person is the lead is about to turn into something else, and so that was great for me because it brought marketing and sales together, and you rarely see that union. Also, the keynote speaker was amazing. He really had us in tears, me at least, with his when he was talking about the dog and everything and they had it. And so the power of storytelling and with recruitment, but on my end of it with driver recruitment, things are ever changing, but truck driver recruitment has been drastically different since 2020 with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so the power of storytelling is so important. And so to be talking about it with omni-channel or just period with different innovative things, but you have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the two things for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Ty's presentation on the power of storytelling and that was one of our goals, is to weave that kind of throughout conference, because there were so many different elements of, if we all tell better stories, if we really think about that both on the marketing and sales side and just on the company side. And I was really excited about that keynote because it touches everybody that kind of comes in. So like our core audience are going to be sales and marketing professionals. We have some leaders that come, and then this HR recruitment is coming in too. And so everybody has stories to tell, whether we're talking about our employees or our customers. People want to buy from people. People want to work for people. It's not about like, and it's about being, a good person and making them understand how they can fit into the equation and what that looks like. I really have tried to spend the past year or so like really focusing on like leading with humanity first and not with all of the other things that we have going on. So I really enjoyed that. I wasn't in tears for the sad parts, but I also, because I'm just not a big crier, but I found him so funny too. So like I was like almost crying in like funny tears in different parts of it. I loved that he picked up on people from the room that like other people had called out or like things like that. That was really cool. So it was kind of an immersive experience right at the beginning of conference, which was cool. And I love that you said, oh, like I'm more of a salesperson, but I went to Kara's session on marketing. And so we do label the sessions marketing, sales, general, but that doesn't mean you have to be a marketing person to go to the marketing session or whatever. I have found myself, when I was a marketing person, being drawn to the sales categories too, because I want to learn more about that so that we do have this happy marriage, as you say. So really, really cool. Great insight. I'm happy to have you there and contributing and speaking. And it was great. But so obviously we had exciting news, but you also have exciting news going on because you Rig on Wheels recently launched its small fleet division. So let's talk all about that.
Yes, because things are just in our industry are ever changing. And I know that whether you are a small fleet and you are the kitchen table small fleet where you have 2 to 10 trucks, or you have 50 or 100 to 700 trucks, your issues or opportunities are different than somebody that has 1,600, 3,500. But that is your competition. Mm-hmm. Your competition is not, if you have 5 trucks, your competition is not the guy down the street that has 10 trucks. Your competition to find drivers is the company that has 1,600 trucks. Is the company that has 3,500 trucks. So what I want to do is help streamline that for those companies. I want our recruiters to help with that, as well as give the blueprint in how to attract those drivers and keep those drivers within reason, without breaking the bank of keeping the drivers and which drivers they need to keep. So I did author a book. I wrote a book about it, and it's called Competing with Giants, and it's a small trucking company's guide to winning professional drivers. So it's not about just getting drivers. We don't want that. I don't advocate for drivers at all. I want professional drivers. I've been in this industry now almost 15 years, so I'm over drivers. I want the professional drivers. I want it to go back to when my uncle was driving trucks. So it's not your plan C, D, or F plan to be a truck driver. It's either your plan A or B. So that is very important for me. So because of that, the carriers, and it's the small carriers that need the support. So how can they actually attract, and the systems, what do they need? The help behind just the recruiting aspect of it. So that's why I wrote that book.
I love that so much. I did pull up a QR code for anyone that's watching this to scan. We can put the link in the show notes as well if you are listening to the audio only version of this. But the coolest thing about, we'll talk about this and then we'll get into another initiative that Kameel and Rig on Wheels has. But if you want 15% off, you can use a TMSA code, TMSA15, and they so graciously have agreed to give $2 of each purchase to go towards TMSA's DEI effort. So we did talk about at the beginning that Kameel does serve on the TMSA DEI task force. So this is part of her way of contributing back, which we appreciate so much. But I think this is a great book of content. I love that you said it focuses on the professional driver. Like, let's really, figure out how we can compete with those big guys. And so we all have the information we need. So appreciate everything that you're doing in the industry for our drivers, for our small companies, all of the above, for our DEI initiatives. Love it. Anything else about the small fleet division you wanted to cover before I continue on and all the things I want to talk to you about?
We have different finance options, of course, depending on how large the company is. But let's say it's an extremely small company. We do have different finance options that can help them out. So once they fill out the form to evaluate things, we can help figure things out for them.
Fantastic. So we did mention that you do something else that you guys did this year, which is a really, really cool initiative. It's called the Faces of the Road calendar. I'm going to pop up that link as well. And this helps celebrate all the different types of diversity and all the different faces that you see in logistics. I would love for you to tell us more about this project, where it came from, and where you guys are going with it.
Yes. Okay. So we are so excited. Rig on Wheels is extremely diverse, from different ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, education, everything. And from the recruiters, the marketing, the support, everything that makes us who we are. Then, not just that, the truck drivers that we actually serve are typically going to be white, Black, Hispanic, and Asian. But a lot of times when you see the paraphernalia, you might see just one or two type of folk. And that is not a great representation of who we are as a trucking community. And you can't be who you don't see. That's not really my quote. I got that from TD Jakes, but so I'm taking it. It works very well. But it's really the truth. And because I'm come from a trucking family, I believe in the whole drivers and everything. I want it to be something where our drivers see themselves, they celebrate, they're being celebrated, the faces of the road. So each page of the calendar has different faces. It shows different, like June is Pride Month. July, you have the 4th of July that's going to be promoted more. And you have different months like that. Also, on the calendar, you have trucking important days that are important to our industry. So, like next month is the Operation Safe Week, where on a general calendar, that wouldn't be on your regular calendar. So that's what I'm trying to have us promote, and through Rig on Wheels, we want to promote through the Faces of the Road is things that are important to our industry for our drivers. So that's what this is for, and it's for the heroes of the road, and that's the truckers. They make America go for real, like.
Literally. They do. And I love it. I love the calendar. I love all of the unique faces that you see in it. And just like you said, a normal calendar has just your traditional like national holidays on it. It doesn't have the things that are specific to us, or things that we should be caring about, or that we just do care about. But sometimes everyone gets busy. It's nice to have a little reminder in your calendar. So love that initiative. And same thing, we have that code that you can use, and then anyone that's using the code Rig on Wheels will donate back to TMSA for their DEI efforts, $2 per calendar. So thank you so much for all of that. You do serve on our DEI task force, and I love hearing your voice. And we talk a lot about DEI, you and I, and that the part of why DEI initiatives are so important are to not just check a box or just be one type of diversity, but to hear all of the unique perspectives and diverse voices, and really think through all different types of people. So when you are helping people to recruit or having these conversations around DEI, what are some quick ways that you might recommend to people to adopt a more equitable and inclusive work environment?
The first thing I think about is, what are they trying to attract? Who is your customer? Literally sit back and think about who is your customer, and let's not just think about skin.
Mm.
That's easy, but who is your customer? So, of course, if you're in certain neighborhoods, it's easy to say, okay, this is more of a Hispanic neighborhood, so that's easy. Okay, that's a no brainer. We know that you probably want to hire someone that speaks Spanish. That's easy. Give me more. Who is your customer? Right? So once you know those things, that gives you more of an idea of what your workforce needs to look like. Because your workforce needs to look like who your customer is so they can identify.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, your workforce needs to be able to communicate with all of your customers and vice versa, but people like the common. And then not just that, when you have a diverse workforce, that shows innovation, that shows growth, that shows opportunity at your office. When we think of Google, you think of diversity, right? So you think of growth there. You don't think of some little small, rinky dinky little place. You don't think of a closed mind type of operation. Everybody, the minute you think of Google, you think innovation. You think big. You think of open door policy. You think so. It's that same thought pattern is how we need to come about, or and so that's literally how I tell people. We know about the skin and the language, but literally, who is your customer? Who is it that you're trying to serve? That's what your workforce needs to look like. And what are you trying to say to the public?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's really important to like sit back and really think through that in a real like honest way. And I also think it's important then to align some of those things. So like one of the things I like to talk about is the holidays. So we just talked about your calendar has all your traditional holidays. Most of those are going to be like your traditional American holidays or Christian holidays, because that is more aligned to the mass majority in the country. That's what is
Mhm.
on those calendars. But if you are hiring a more diverse workforce, there are ways like you want to support the people who might celebrate different types of holidays. Like we just celebrated Juneteenth. How are you celebrating that? That's a new one for a lot of people. I even like was like, I have heard about it and stuff, but I was working on our DEI stuff and I was like, I'm going to research this to make sure I understand the impact that it has, because that isn't something that I grew up celebrating or knowing about. It's about educating ourselves, knowing where you're starting from, but being able to expand past that and understand other cultures, other ethnicities, all of those things. One of the best things that I see is kind of an open holiday policy where you can still give people like 10 days off, but they pick the ones that are important to them. So it takes the pressure of them of the employee off, having to be like, please let me have this holiday off that I celebrate that's different than everybody else. Or if you are hiring people in other countries, they celebrate other things. So just things like that that really worked. I had previously worked at a really distributed workforce. And so we just never closed our office really, which was a great business practice because somebody was working every day, like even on Christmas. And even if people are a traditional like Christmas celebrator, like maybe they're married to a nurse or a firefighter that has to work on Christmas and they love that they can take the day after off when that person has off to celebrate. It just makes them feel better and it takes the pressure off the employee having to ask for those same like rights, if you will, that everybody gets for their holidays. So it's super simple, but it's a start. I think more people should think about things like that.
Or maybe they work in trucking and we just don't get any days off.
Right, right.
But I was about to say that, like Darcella, she works. She basically runs our podcast, mostly everything with the podcast. She's like a genius, and um, it was their Independence Day last Wednesday, and she didn't take it off. She had a lot of work to do. She was like, "I'm not going to take it off," and she used it as a floating holiday. So this past Monday, it wasn't a lot of work, so she just used it to take it off then.
Mhm.
So that's a bit of how we do things. So if you're not going to use your holiday on that particular holiday because there's a lot of work or whatever is going on, you don't have to. Then take it off another day that you need
Mhm.
to take it off.
Right. And I just think that it makes people feel seen and heard. And from a business leader perspective, like they're taking the day off one day or the other day. Like it's not like it's
Yeah.
really that impactful. And I think too, like it really does open opportunities when you do it that way because then you can, okay, she was like, I have things to do this day. I'm
Yeah.
going to take off the day I have less work to do.
Yes.
Like, what a great thing for a boss to hear.
Right. So I was like, that's wonderful. But she was thinking, I don't really, she's not going to do anything on that particular day. But I still need you to know I need you to take a day off because I don't need everybody to be crazy like me. I need you to take your days. So that's important, for me. I may work insanely, but I need them to take their days so they don't have burnout.
Right.
But you need to know when you need to take your days.
Mhm.
That's up to you, you
Right.
know, especially on the marketing side. Take your days when it needs to be for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, one last question for you, which is the one I ask everyone, then they come on. But if you could go back in time and talk to a younger Camille, and this could be personally or professionally, when would you go back to and what would you tell her?
I would probably have gone back to before I moved to Houston. So I've been here 10 years. And I probably would have made the move sooner. Because making the move to Houston, uh, I've always done well with Rig on Wheels, but making the move to Houston made me really have to come out of my comfort zone. Because
Mm.
moving from Chicago to Houston, I felt like I was dropped in a foreign land. It's totally different. You have to learn everything. It's just different, right? And I believe I would have just sprouted faster. I would have scaled sooner and I would have served. Serving is very important for me. So you can't serve from an empty cup. So I would have scaled, sooner. And I would have been able to serve faster. So just trusting my instincts of that. I've never been one that you always have fear, and I haven't allowed my fear to hold me back. but the moving from where you were comfortable in one state to come, this many hours away, I did hold myself back about
Mm.
3 years. Yeah, I wanted to do it 3 years prior.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, knowing like trusting your gut and believing in yourself and knowing when to take the leap. But those are all things that we learn as we go. And sometimes we don't know until it's easier to say that now looking back than at the
Yes,
moment. But yeah, I think trusting yourself is a big one. I ask this question to everyone, and I feel like so many of the answers are really like I should have trusted myself and my needs sooner.
yeah,
And so, if we do have younger generations listening to this, like trust yourself now because you will one day and you'll hope that you did it sooner. So, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so good to see you at Elevate. We
yes.
do have another TMSA conference coming up. We have the Executive Summit coming up October 10th through 11th in Hoboken, New Jersey. So that one is a smaller event geared towards industry leaders. So if you're interested in attending that, we are finalizing our speaker lineup for that, but it's going to be a really, really great conference. Really excited about it too, because one of the sessions will be me and Sarah Ahern of Path Growth, who is our research partner for our sales and marketing benchmark study this year. So we actually just started sending out. So please fill out your surveys, everybody. The more people that fill those out, the more unique data that we have to present. But we'll be talking about the benchmarking for this industry, specifically in sales and marketing. It's a one-of-a-kind survey, and I love being able to do that session at Executive Summit that dives into what that actually means for us as we move forward. And then one other thing that we'll for sure be doing at the Executive Summit is announcing our Mountain Mover winners. So if you know sales and marketing leaders in this space and you want to nominate them for one of these top awards, we are still accepting submissions now through August 2nd. So exciting things happening here at TMSA. I'm going to pop up the QR code one more time for the Faces of the Road calendar, just because I do love this initiative so much. I love that you so nicely kind of partnered with us and are giving us the money back to continue our own DEI efforts. But thank you so much for Kameel for coming on the show and all that you do for the industry and for TMSA. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.